Hey YouTube, it's Adam from I'm a Music Mogul. In today's video, we'll be remaking the song All We Know by the Chainsmokers featuring Phoebe Ryan using nothing but Logic stock sounds and stock plugins. So let's get to it. As per usual in these Making a Beat videos, I'll be talking a little bit less, but just follow along as we remake the track in Logic, and again using nothing but stock sounds in Logic. So let's get to it. First thing that we're going to do is change the tempo to 90 BPMs to the song's tempo. I'm going to create a 4-bar loop, and let's get to making that guitar riff that we hear in the beginning. So I'm going to bring in Logic's the Liverpool bass, and let's go ahead and draw in the notes. So first I'm going to do the high part, and then I'm going to do the lower part on the guitar. So let's go here, and let's get to drawing out these notes. So again, I did figure out this melody before I started out the video. If you're wondering how did I figure it out, well, I figured it out beforehand. Let's just see if I remember them. Alright, so let's go ahead and make that sound a little bit more like the guitar in the track itself. So what we're going to do here is going to open up the smart controls here and add in a little bit of distortion. Add some excitement. Alright, something like that sounds good. I'm just going to lower this a bit. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to bust this out to a reverb track so we get a nice verb on this. Let's just bust it out to 10 and send it out at unity gain for now. And let's just go ahead and bring in a nice delay. Let's go reverb space designer. And I'm just going to bring in a nice huge hall, I think. Alright, let's just go with that one right there. I'm going to make sure that my reverb is completely 100% wet because we're going to control it using this fader over here. So the way they panned out the guitars in the track was sort of mimicking an old school way of doing things. You pan your dry to your left and your wet to your right, and it gives you a nice full sound. So I'm going to pan my dry signal to the left to about, let's call it 20 points, minus 20. And then I'm going to pan my reverb to the right, the same thing, but going to the right. So it just gives you a nice wider sound. Next thing we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and duplicate this and create the lower part in this guitar. Alright, so let's go ahead and just create another MIDI track here. I think this one only repeats itself every 2 bars. So let's see. Here we go. I think it goes down to an A. And this bass part, I'm actually going to kind of centered it a little bit more, so it gives us a nice wide sounding full guitar. So for this low end part, I'm just going to take out a little bit of the lows, not too much, just make it a little bit more narrower sounding. All right, that sounds good just like that. All right, next let's go ahead and create a nice tom roll to kind of go into our verse 1 or verse A. Create a new software instrument track, and we will bringing in Logic's EXS24 sampler instrument, and we'll just be pulling up a tom section. Now it's going off my screen. I'm going to go to GarageBand, actually Factory I believe it is, drums and percussion. Single drums. Actually, I'm going to go to single drums, and I'm going to go to toms, and I'm going to electric toms. Now this is all happening off my screen, but that is the sort of the tree. I'm just going to go ahead and choose just one as a preset here. We're going to draw in our MIDI. Let's create a little section right here. All right, so let's go here. So I'm just going to go ahead and loop this last section here while I edit these toms. We'll do one higher here just to kind of fill it up. We'll match our offset note here. Drag that out. What we're going to do here, since I inputted the MIDI by drawing it, I'm going to go ahead and select all of my MIDI notes. I'm going to go to functions, and I'm going to go to MIDI transform. I'm going to go randomize my velocity on each one of the hits just to make it a little bit more human sounding. I'm going to pull this down, don't need it that high. Go select and operate, and now we got random velocities on each note. It's going to sound a lot more better and human. And let's just add in a nice reverb here. And then we're just going to do a little automation here. We're going to pan from left, or yeah, let's go from left to right here. So let's go up. Let's actually change to region MIDI. Region automation. Right now on my volume. Let's change this over to pan. Go absolute. So we're going to pull this up here. Nothing too crazy. Maybe again to the 20 point. And we're going to drop it down to the 20 point. Kind of travels across your stereo spectrum. All right, sounds good so far. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna bring in some of those, actually don't quite remember what it's called, but sort of like a bell and whistle kind of sound. Gonna create a new software instrument track, and you're gonna get to know the sound in a second. Once again, I'm gonna bring in Logic's EXS24 sampler instrument, and let's go ahead and bring in, again, I'm going off my screen here, but I am going under GarageBand this time and gonna locate the rock kit. Here it is right here. Whoa, here it is right here, the rock kit. And we're gonna find our sound that we need right now. Let's go ahead and record that in. Maybe we'll push this back one. All right, sounds good. Let's move on to our next step, which is going to be a nice snap. So let's just pull this across here to our verse. So let's go ahead and create a new software instrument track. This time we will be bringing in, just gonna make this smaller. I'll be bringing in a drum machine designer and let it load up. And let's go ahead and just find our own snaps. Let's change this clap to a nice snap. I think snaps are under the claps. Okay, so let's just take that one. Let's go ahead and record that in. All right, let's go ahead and quantize what I just recorded. Let's go ahead and mold this snap to be more like the one in the track. All right, something like that sounds good. Let's go ahead and move on. I was going to copy this to the second part of, or the next 4 bars in the verse, because we're just moving along here in the track and arranging as we go. So right now we're going to add in another kick, or not another one, just a kick. And we just want a nice clean kick. So something like that. That's going to stand out from the mix. Let's go ahead and quantize what I just done there. Let's go ahead and make that kick a little bit more like the one you hear in the song that pierces through the mix. Let's just go ahead and just add in some reverb to this kit. All right, let's go ahead and drag this out one more time to complete our verse. And we're just going to bring in a nice bass over here. Let's create a new software instrument track, and let's go ahead and just record in or step in our MIDI here. So let's go. This is just the pre-chorus, or sort of the ending of the verse inside to the pre-chorus. For this, I know this is the ooh-ah part, so maybe I'm gonna not use the bass. It's not really working for me. And let's just pull in Alchemy, and we'll pull in a soundscape sound. It's also, I think, a little bit too fast here. Let me see here. This got to be dragged out. There we go. And let's just put in and this will lead us into our pre-chorus. But first, what we got to do is create a reverse sort of snare, not a reverse snare, a reverse crash. So create a new, actually I'm not gonna create a new software instrument track. Let's just copy over our rock kit over here. I'm gonna find a snare here. Let's go ahead and record that. All right, let's go ahead and quantize that. So I'm gonna right click on this region. I'm gonna go bounce in place. I wanna bounce this track. I'm actually gonna leave this track alive because I'm gonna use it at some point. I'm gonna just call this crash. And this is the reverse crash. Let's double click on our audio region that we just created. We're gonna go to File, Functions, and we're gonna go Reverse. And that reverses that for us. So we get a nice reverse just like that. So let's go ahead and just push this off to the end here. So it gives us a nice little build up into our pre-chorus. I'm actually gonna mute this, that for now. Something is off with this one right here. Let me see if I can just do something for a second. I'm gonna push this off here. It builds too quickly. That sounds better. Maybe if we pitch it up 1 octave as well. Perfect. Let's go ahead and work on our pre-chorus. In the pre-chorus, there is a lot that happens and that changes up. So the first thing that we are going to do is just cycle range this, well, 4 bars. We'll work 4 bars at a time because it is an 8-bar pre-chorus. And I'm going to create a new softer instrument track, another one. And let's just push this down here. And we're going to work on our pianos for a second here. Let's just put in piano. Let's use the Yamaha piano this time. And let's go ahead and draw in the first 4 bars for our pre-chorus. Let's see here. Again, let's give myself some more room and more room for you guys to see what is actually going on. Okay, here we go. So let's go ahead and draw in this piano. I'm actually just going to cycle it 2 bars for now. Let's see if I remember the chords. It's gonna mute this crash because it's like popping there a little bit. Okay, that sounds good so far. And I think this goes up once again. I think that's how it goes. So that essentially repeats itself. And let's just work on the pianos on the second part of the pre-chorus. Just a little technique that producers uses to build up their sound is what they essentially do is take the root note, which is this one right here, and they just push that up 1 octave as well, so it creates another dimension. Something like that. So it builds the tension as you get into the drop sound, or the drop part. All right, that sounds good just like that. Let's put in our crash here. We'll finally use it. Our reverse crash, we're probably gonna have to move it a little bit to work with our crash. Push that back a little bit. Let me zoom in here. All right, for now that sounded good. Let's go ahead and bring in another, you know what, let's just use the same drum kit that we had here. Record our kick part. All right, something like that is good. All right, so on our second part here, we're gonna add in a clap. So let's just change this snare to a clap sound. Oh, I need this part open. Let's just use that. Go ahead and quantize that. And then on the second part, we're going to double the claps. And for the kicks, we're going to bring the kicks in on every one. Let me just redo the kicks here. Actually, let's just follow the claps here, make things a little bit simpler here, because I know this video is dragging on. And for the clap, let's just mold it a little bit better. All right, that sounds good as it is. Let's go ahead and create a nice synth over here. So let's create another software instrument track, and we're going to bring in Logic's ES2 synthesizer. We're going to create that pluck sort of ARP sound that you hear in the pre-chorus. I'm also going to be using a preset here to move things along, and it is a preset that I've created, and I've also taught how to do this sound. You can click the link in the top left-hand corner to learn how to make it from scratch. But it is the TI lead, but we're going to mold it into a Chainsmokers sort of pluck sound. Let's go ahead and just draw in our MIDI. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up, and let's draw it in. So we want it nice and high. Let's make this bigger for you guys so you see what's going on. It's pretty much something like that. And then it gets repeated. Let me just solo this for a second here. Let's duplicate that. Take out this note because there's a drop in it. And let's just duplicate this for another 2 bars. Or 1 bar, sorry. So that essentially repeats itself for the entire pre-chorus and drop once we get to it. All right, now we got 4 bars here. Let's go ahead and just duplicate that. let me just go ahead and bring in my channel strip setting here for the TI setting that I did in the last tutorial. TI lead. It's just going to let this go a lot faster here. So what I have on this track is a compressor, a space designer to add in a nice reverb, and a quick tape delay over there. I'm just going to soften up the attack a little bit. Maybe I'm going to make it a little bit wider as well. So let's go after the tape delay. I'm going to add the delay, sample delay. I'm just going to push this out to a little bit wider. So I'm going to push one channel. All right, let's go ahead and create another softer instrument track. We're going to create the part where it has like the ear candy in there. Or at least that's what I call it. It's sort of like a little whistle in the background. So let's go ahead and create a new sort of region here. And I'm just going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to duplicate this TI region here. I'm just going to work with that for a second until I find where it needs to go. I think it's something like there, possibly, maybe. Let me just put in the first note here. No, maybe here. Okay, so that's where it starts. Let's just make this a little bigger for you guys can see here. So that lasted a little bit too long. All right, so that sounds good just like that. But I'm just going to go ahead and create this to be another sound. I'm just going to click a random one and go from there. Let's maybe that Miami lead could work actually. I don't need it so long. All right, let's go with that just to keep this tutorial going. Let's see if I do one octave lower actually. Sort of ear candy right here. So I'm just going to copy this over to the similar position over the next 4 bars here. Let's bring it in with the track. All right, so let's go ahead and create another softer instrument track. And I'm going to bring in Logic's ES2. And this time we're going to work with the preset here. We're going to use the Drake bass preset that I've created here. Let's see here if I can find it. The Drake Moog bass is the one I was looking for. And we're going to put a bass in here. So let's go ahead and push this to 4 bars. Open this up and let's put in the bass. Let's go to a nice low octave. Sort of like a Reese bass or a Moog bass. Let's go ahead and just duplicate this over the chorus of the pre-chorus. So let's go ahead and put in our crash here. We're We're also going to put in this sort of the glittery sound here. Let's put it there. The next thing that we're going to work on is create another software instrument track, and we're going to make that snap at the end of this pre-chorus. So let's go ahead and bring in another drum machine designer, and let's just bring in another clap here. All right, let's take that clap for the end there. So let's go ahead and put in a drawing right here, and so let's make sure that everything gets broken up right before the clap. All right, let's make that clap nice and big. And let's put on, oh, this actually kit has a reverb. Let's just pull up the reverb. I don't like that reverb. Let's go ahead and put in a giant reverb on it. We're gonna go to reverb, space designer, and let's just add in a big plate verb. All right, so that builds up. And then we go into our chorus or our drop. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna copy over what we need. So we're gonna need this high TI lead. Just copy it over 8 bars. We could put in our crash as well. Next, let's go ahead and create those giant sort of future bass chords. And if you didn't see my last video, click the link in the top left-hand corner. I showed you how to make that sound. I'm going to create a new software instrument track, and I'm going to bring in actually the channel strip setting for that tutorial I just put out. If I can find it here, the Chainsmokers, maybe it's under T. The Chainsmokers, all we know, here it is right here. And let's go ahead and draw in our MIDI. There's this location right there. Okay, that sounds good. Let's move on to our next part. Let's just copy this and then we'll move it over. So there's our chords right there that essentially just repeats itself, or our future bass stabs. So let's go ahead and create another software instrument track and bring in some drums. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to keep the same drum track here. Where are my drums? I didn't name any of my tracks here. Here it is here. I'm just going to go ahead and quantize what I just recorded. Let's go ahead and add in that clap and snare. Let's just give ourselves a new one here. Let's go to claps. Okay, let's use that one. I'm just going to open up here and just paste it in here. Okay, let's go ahead and quantize that. And I think I'm just going to add in a snare here as well. Let's go with quantize. And then we'll manipulate those sounds to sound good. So let's go ahead and take this and let's go ahead and change it to a snare. Just take that right there, and I'm just going to copy this. Okay, where was that snare here? Let me just see where it was. A sharp one. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Let's start with our clap. Let me just mute the clap for a second. Bring the clap in. Alright, something like that sounds good. Next, let's go ahead and bring in the bass. I'm going to create a new softer instrument track. I'm just going to solo this for a second here. Alright, so something like that. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. And at the latter part, we're going to push this up to the higher C. Let's create this less of a sort of 808 and more of a bass line. Bring that with the rest of the track. And finally, let's just go ahead and add in a nice we'll do a light clap over there. Just go ahead and quantize my claps I just put in. And we're just going to duplicate that to here. We can also put in a hi-hat there just to fill it out. All right, and that's pretty much the track right there. So if we go ahead and play it from beginning, let's go ahead and play that out here. Move it to the bar 1. And in the track itself, they also had like this sort of record player sound at the beginning. Now this isn't part of Logic, but it is a free plugin. So I am deviating a little bit, but it is free. You don't have to pay for it. It's by Isotope and it's called Isotope Vinyl. And it just gives you that sort of analog sound. Let's bring in some mechanical noise there. And here we go. Here's the track. And that is how you create the song All We Know by the Chainsmokers featuring Phoebe Ryan, using only and nothing but Logic stock sounds and plugins, minus this free plugin from Isotope Vinyl to get that sort of analog vinyl sound in the track itself. For you Logic users out there, I'm going to go ahead and save this entire session for you guys and place it as a download link in the description box below. For you non-Logic users out there, I'm going to go ahead and export all these MIDI stems right here so you can import them into your own DAW and create a new remake of All We Know by the Chainsmokers featuring Phoebe Ryan. Got your back in case you don't use Logic. And that is it for me, guys. If you did like this video, remember to thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And as usual, guys, more great videos always coming soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Talk to y'all soon. Later.